When a powerful official's daughter threw her parking ticket at the judge, the courtroom didn't just go silent, it shifted. What should have been a minor dispute exploded into a chain of evidence, emails, and footage that tore apart every layer of privilege she thought would protect her. With each reveal, her confidence cracked, exposing fears she never meant anyone to see. And just when she believed the worst had passed, the judge delivered a final truth that changed everything. And trust me, that was only the beginning. But before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from? Don't forget the subscribe button. The ticket still rested on the bench, its edges curled like it had absorbed the arrogance that launched it. Judge Judy did not touch it yet. She simply watched the young woman who had thrown it, as if waiting for the next layer of entitlement to reveal itself. Nothing in that room moved, except the smirk on Lila Harrow's face. The camera widens across the courtroom. Rows of silent spectators shift forward, sensing the tension thickening like humidity before a storm. Lila, the senator's daughter, sits with one knee crossed over the other, posture loose, bored, almost amused. She wears privilege like a designer coat, heavy, expensive, and effortlessly dismissive. Across the aisle sits Marcy Nolan, the parking attendant. Her shoulders fold inward, as if trying to disappear into herself. She holds a stack of photos to her chest, hands trembling slightly with each breath. The fluorescent lights overhead cast soft reflections on the glossy prints, making them shimmer like unspoken truths waiting for air. Judge Judy finally leans forward. The movement is subtle, but the atmosphere shifts. "Ms. Harrow," she says, voice steady as a held blade, "since you chose to throw your citation at the bench, I imagine you are eager to explain it." Lila smiles like someone hearing an inside joke. "There is nothing to explain. It is a parking ticket. My father will handle it." The words land hard. A few heads turn. Even the bailiff's eyebrows rise an inch. Judge Judy's expression does not change, but the room feels her patience narrow. "Your father is not on this citation," Judy replies. "You are." Lila shrugs. "Same difference?" The camera closes in, a tight shot of Judy's eyes narrowing just enough to freeze Lila's confidence mid-breath. The judge lifts the ticket at last, turning it between her fingers, examining it with the kind of precision usually reserved for evidence in far heavier cases. "Before we discuss this ticket," Judy says, "I want to understand the interaction you had with the parking attendant." Marcy stiffens. Lila rolls her eyes so dramatically the gesture alone borders on disrespect. "It was nothing," Lila says. "She was rude. I was in a hurry. End of story." But Judy is not convinced. She never is when a story arrives wrapped in apathy. She gestures toward Marcy. "Ms. Nolan, you may speak." Marcy rises slowly, clutching the photos. Her voice cracks on the first word, but steadies on the second. She told me people like me should not speak to her." Lila's smirk twitches, the first crack, small but visible. The judge studies that twitch with quiet intensity. The room leans into the silence, sensing the shift in power beginning. Then Judy asks, "Ms. Harrow, is that how you treat people who cannot fight back?" Lila's smile returns, sharper, thinner, as she replies, "Only when they forget their place." And the courtroom gasps as Judy's gavel lifts. The echo of Lila's last sentence still hung in the air, sharp enough to cut through the silence. Judge Judy had not lowered her gavel yet. She held it suspended, as if weighing not the wood but the weight of Lila's arrogance itself. And in that suspended moment, the entire courtroom waited for the judge's next breath. The gavel settles onto the bench with a soft, deliberate tap, not a strike, but a warning. Judy's eyes remain fixed on Lila Harrow, whose posture has only grown more relaxed, as if the judge's scrutiny were nothing more than a dim light she could easily blink through. "Ms. Harrow," Judy says calmly, "I want you to describe the incident from your perspective. Start with your arrival at the parking structure." Lila exhales dramatically. "Fine. I pulled in. I parked. She gestures lazily toward Marcy, who recoils slightly. "Acted like I was inconveniencing her." The audience murmurs. The camera drifts to Marcy's hands, fingers tightening around the photo stack, knuckles paling. Judy tilts her head. "Is that the extent of your explanation?" "That's all that matters," Lila replies, lounging deeper into her seat. "I had an event, My time is valuable. She slowed me down. The camera shifts again, this time to the bailiff, who looks like he is trying not to roll his eyes. Even he has seen enough entitlement to recognize when someone wields it like a shield. Marcy's voice trembles as she stands again. She was not just in a hurry. She blocked the exit lane. She waved her father's ID at me. She said, Lila cuts her off with a raised hand. Yes, yes, the senator's daughter. You keep making that sound like a crime. It is not a crime, Judy says evenly, but using someone else's status to intimidate is not something this courtroom overlooks. Something flickers in Lila's eyes, not fear, but annoyance, the kind people feel when their usual strategies fail. She flips her hair, sends a bored glance at the cameras, and sighs loudly enough to fill the room. Your Honor, she says, with all respect. Judy's eyebrow rises. Ms. Harrow, let us try that sentence again without the performative courtesy. Lila's smile tightens. This ticket is pointless. I should not even be here. My father can clear this with one phone call. The murmurs grow sharper. Someone in the back shifts forward, sensing the emotional temperature spike. Judy sits perfectly still, hands folded. Your father's influence has no place in this courtroom. What happens here concerns your actions, not his title. For the first time, Lila's smirk wavers, just a breath's worth, but enough for the camera to catch the moment. Marcy's eyes soften with something close to courage. I just wanted to do my job, she whispers. The silence that follows is not empty. It throbs with truth waiting to surface. Judy leans forward slowly. Ms. Harrow, you are going to answer my questions with honesty and respect. Because from where I am sitting, this ticket is the least concerning part of your behavior. Lila's gaze hardens as she snaps. Then maybe you should look at the rest of your evidence. And she points toward the photos Marcy has not yet dared to hand over. The moment Lila pointed to the photos, the temperature of the room shifted, a sudden drop, like someone had opened a door to a colder truth. Marcy's fingers tightened around the stack, the edges trembling as if the pictures themselves were alive with secrets. And Judge Judy, without breaking eye contact with Lila, simply said, Bring them here. The camera follows Marcy's hesitant steps. Each footfall echoes softly, echoing like a heartbeat trying to quiet itself. She places the photos on the bench, her hands pulling back the moment they leave her fingers, as if afraid of the consequences they carry. Judy spreads the photos, one by one, slowly, methodically. The courtroom leans forward as a single image settles between her hands. Lila, mid-gesture, standing in front of the parking attendant's booth, blocking the lane, her expression sharp with entitlement. Lila forces a smile, too quick, too confident. That is taken totally out of context. I was just asking for clarification. Judy does not correct her. She does not need to. She flips to the next photo, Lila waving something in the air. A laminated card, a senator's ID badge. Marcy swallows hard. She said I should recognize power when I see it. Lila laughs, but the sound is thinner now, brittle around the edges. Oh, please, she is exaggerating. People like her always exaggerate. There it is. The crack. Not in Lila's story, but in her certainty. Judy sets the photos aside and lifts the ticket again. Ms. Harrow, earlier you said the interaction was brief, yet these images show a much longer encounter. Lila's foot taps once beneath the table. A small motion, but the camera catches it like a pulse of panic. I do not remember every second, she says lightly. I was busy. Busy enough to forget throwing this ticket? Judy asks. Lila's jaw tightens. I did not throw it. I handed it. Marcy's breath leaves her as a tiny gasp. She threw it, hard. Judy presses a button on her desk. Bailiff, retrieve the body cam footage from Ms. Nolan. The audience murmurs. Even Lila blinks, once, twice, the rhythm uneven, betraying the first real ripple of unease. You have footage? She asks, her voice dipping just slightly below confidence. It should capture the exchange, Judy replies, including the moment you claim you handed the ticket. The bailiff returns with a small device, setting it beside the photos. The soft click of the playback button cuts through the silence like the beginning of a confession. On screen, grainy but clear enough, the audio crackles. Lila's voice, sharp. Do not waste my time. Take it. Then, the unmistakable sound of paper hitting a surface. Lila's smile vanishes, completely. Judy pauses the video. The image freezes on Lila's outstretched arm, the ticket midair. Her voice is quiet, precise. "Ms. Harrow, would you like to revise your statement?" Lila stares at the frozen image, then at Judy, and whispers, "You do not know the whole story." And for the first time, fear slips into her voice. The frozen frame of Lila on the body cam screen lingered like a held breath. Judge Judy did not move. She let the silence pull Lila apart, thread by thread, and when she finally pressed stop, it felt less like ending a video and more like ending a lie. The courtroom stayed unnervingly still. Even the soft hum of the overhead lights seemed quieter, as if afraid to interrupt the unraveling happening at the defense table. Lila's fingers twitched against the polished wood, tapping a nervous rhythm she did not seem aware of. Judy folded her hands. "You said you handed the ticket. The footage shows otherwise." Lila inhales sharply, but her voice emerges too smooth, too practiced. "The angle is misleading. Cameras distort things." Judy's expression remains neutral. "Do they distort your words as well?" The question hits harder than volume ever could. A ripple runs through the audience. Lila shifts, crossing her legs again, trying to find the comfortable posture she wore like armor earlier, but it will not settle. Her confidence, once effortless, now fits like a costume several sizes too small. Marcy, standing just behind the bailiff, looks down at her shoes as if reliving the humiliation. Her breathing steadies, though, not from fear, but from validation. Judy looks back at the photos spread across her bench. She lifts one, the image of Lila waving the senator's ID. "This photograph," she says, "shows you using your father's title to intimidate an employee doing her job." "That is not intimidation," Lila snaps. "It is clarification." The judge's eyebrow arches, slow and surgical. "Clarification of what? Your importance? Your immunity? Your belief that consequences do not apply to you?" Lila's face tightens. Her jaw, once loose with relaxed entitlement, now clenches as if holding back something she refuses to show. "I never said that," Lila mutters. "You did not need to. Your behavior said it for you." For a moment, Lila looks genuinely rattled. Her eyes flick toward the door, a quick, instinctive glance as if waiting for someone to burst in and rescue her, someone with authority, someone with power, someone with her last name. But the door stays closed. Judy lays the ticket flat again, and then flips it over. A whisper slinks through the gallery. They had not seen the back. Only Judy had examined it closely enough earlier. Lila suddenly stiffens. Her heartbeat becomes visible in her throat. "What is this?" Judy asks, voice low but resonant. On the back of the ticket, scrawled in Lila's hurried handwriting, is a short message. Not polite, not harmless. A threat, veiled but unmistakable. Marcy's breath catches. The bailiff's eyes widen. Even Lila's mask slips, panic flashing like light breaking through cracked glass. Judy reads it silently, allowing the weight of the words to fill the room. Then she looks up. "Ms. Harrow," she says slowly, "we need to discuss what you wrote here." Lila's lips part, her voice evaporating before it forms, and the entire courtroom leans in, waiting for the truth she never meant anyone to see. The courtroom did not breathe when Judge Judy lifted the ticket again. The handwritten message on its back glared under the fluorescent lights like a bruise finally exposed, and Lila Harrow, who had spent the morning wrapped in confidence, suddenly looked very, very small. Judge Judy's voice was quiet, which somehow made it louder. "Ms. Harrow, I will read your note aloud. Everyone deserves to hear your exact words." Lila's eyes flinch, not at the judge, but at the truth she can no longer outrun. Judy turns the ticket so the gallery cannot see it, allowing only her voice to paint the damage. "Lose the attitude or lose your job. People like you do not get to talk back." The words drop into the silence like stones into deep water. The ripples spread across the room, a collective exhale of disbelief, disgust, and pity, all tangled together. Marcy's hand covers her mouth. A soft, stifled sound escapes her, not quite a sob, not quite relief, but something wounded trying to rise. Lila tries to speak, but her throat locks. She swallows hard. Her voice emerges thin, frayed. "It was a joke, a stupid joke. I did not mean—" "A threat is not a joke," Judy cuts in, but there is no harshness in her tone, only fact, only truth, especially when directed at someone whose job depends on following protocol. Lila shakes her head, desperate to regain footing. I was frustrated. She was being slow. I should not have written it, but you did, Judy completes. The camera shifts to Lila's hands, fingers tapping an erratic rhythm, betraying the storm beneath her skin. She is unraveling one heartbeat at a time. Marcy steps forward, voice trembling but brave. Because of that note, my supervisor questioned whether I should stay. I almost lost my job, my only job, because she could not wait 30 seconds. The gallery stirs, not with anger, with empathy. Lila opens her mouth, but the words come out in fragments. I did not think. I did not know it would go that far. You did not think, Judy says, because consequences have never followed you. The line lands like a verdict, even though the ruling has not yet come. Lila's eyes glisten, not with remorse, not yet, but with fear. The kind that arrives when privilege finally encounters something immovable. The judge sets the ticket down with precision, aligning it squarely on the bench, a symbolic act, as if restoring the balance Lila disrupted. We are not finished, Judy says. Your behavior extends far beyond this note. Marcy looks between them, breathing unevenly, still absorbing the weight of being believed, and Lila's voice, small, fragile, barely escapes her lips. I never wanted to hurt her. Judy's eyes narrow, not unkindly, but unflinchingly. Intent does not erase impact. The judge gestures toward the bailiff. Bring me the rest of the documentation. Lila's shoulders collapse inward, because she knows exactly what is coming next. The bailiff approached the bench with a thin stack of documents, the papers trembling ever so slightly in his hands. Or maybe it was the air around him that trembled. Lila watched the stack move closer, her posture locked between defiance and dread. And for the first time, she inhaled like someone preparing for impact. Judge Judy accepted the documents without breaking eye contact with Lila. The soft rustle of paper sounded louder than any gavel. It was the sound of truth assembling itself, piece by unforgiving piece. Ms. Harrow, Judy said, her tone calm but exact. These records detail the follow-up actions after your note. They include internal reports, witness statements, and copies of your emails. Lila's head snaps up. Emails! You went through your public correspondence, Judy clarifies. Nothing private. Everything listed here was sent from your official address. The camera zooms slightly, catching the first true sign of panic, a tremor in Lila's lower lip, subtle but undeniable. Judy lifts the first page. This email, sent at 11:42 p.m., states that Ms. Nolan was disrespectful, insubordinate, and in need of disciplinary review. You demanded that her supervisor take immediate action. Marcy's breath catches quietly. Lila presses her nails into her palm. That email was nothing, Lila insists, choking on the words. I was angry. I did not think. That, Judy interrupts gently, has become a pattern. The phrase hits Lila harder than any accusation. Her chest rises unevenly, breath snagging in the space between outrage and fear. It was just a message, she mutters, but there is no confidence left in the tone, only unraveling certainty. People complain to supervisors all the time. Not with threats attached, Judy replies, not with power leveraged, and not with the expectation that status will shield them from accountability. Lila looks away, blinking rapidly. Her composure, once pristine and polished, now fractures in visible lines. The camera lingers on her eyes, the widening pupils, the sudden wetness she refuses to let fall. Judy softens her voice, not with sympathy, but with precision. Tell me, Ms. Harrow. What did you think would happen to Ms. Nolan after your complaints? I do not know, Lila whispers. I just wanted her to stop talking to me like I was ordinary. The words hang there, fragile, honest, devastating. Marcy looks down, not out of defeat but out of sadness for what entitlement can do to a person. You believed your time, your title, and your father's position made you untouchable, Judy says. But that belief hurt someone who was simply trying to do her job. Lila wipes the corner of her eye quickly, hoping no one sees the tear that almost escaped. I never meant for any of this. Intent does not change the outcome, Judy says softly, but truth can change what happens next. Lila's gaze lifts, hollow, wavering, searching for something she has never needed before. Accountability. Judy closes the folder carefully. Ms. Harrow, I have one more question for you. And every light in the courtroom seems to dim as Lila realizes she is running out of places to hide. Judge Judy's final question still hovered in the room, like smoke that refused to clear. Lila sat frozen, shoulders lifted, breath shallow, as if any movement might shatter the last pieces of control she was clinging to. And the moment Judy leaned back in her chair, the entire courtroom braced itself for what came next. Ms. Harrow, Judy said slowly, you have leaned on your father's position in every explanation you have offered today. The words were not loud, but they struck with the precision of a scalpel. Lila stiffens, the faintest tremor passing through her hands. I did not lean on anything, she says, forcing a brittle smile. I simply stated facts. Judy's gaze does not soften. You stated privilege. There is a difference. The gallery reacts, a low, collective rustle, like wind brushing through dry leaves. Even the cameras seem to shift subtly toward Lila, as if capturing her unraveling moment by moment. Lila straightens in her seat, suddenly defensive. With all respect, Your Honor. Do not hide behind courtesy, Judy cuts in. It is not armor. Silence. Heavy, unblinking. The judge reaches for another sheet in the folder, a printed email. She holds it gently, the way one holds something sharp. This message, she says, was sent directly to Ms. Nolan's employer. You questioned her competence, her attitude, and her suitability for her job. Lila's eyes widen. Who gave you that? That is not public. Your employer provided it, Judy replies. This job title you flash so readily, it designated your email as official communication. A crack forms, not in Lila's voice but in her composure. Her breathing turns uneven, shoulders rising and falling in shallow waves. I only wrote that because she made me feel accountable, Judy asks. Equal, human? Lila's lips part, but no sound escapes. Marcy stands a little taller now, no longer folding into herself. She watches Lila not with anger, but with a quiet recognition, the kind that comes when someone finally stands up to the one who pushed them down. Judy continues, the senator's name carries weight, but it does not carry you through this courtroom. Those words hit Lila like cold water. She blinks hard, the foundation of her identity beginning to shift beneath her. You think I expect special treatment? She insists, her voice cracking on the last word. I think, Judy answers gently, that you do not know who you are without it. The room absorbs that truth like light being swallowed by shadow. Before Lila can respond, the bailiff steps forward, holding a sealed envelope. Your Honor, the materials you requested. Judy nods. Thank you. Lila's eyes dart to the envelope, panic tightening her jaw. What is that? What else did someone send you? Judy opens the envelope with slow, deliberate calm. Inside is a printed screenshot, an email Lila never intended to see again, an email designed to intimidate, a direct threat. Judy lowers the page, her eyes locked on Lila. Ms. Harrow, would you like to explain this message you sent at 2:17 a.m.? The moment Judy lifted the 2:17 a.m. email, Lila's spine stiffened like someone had pulled an invisible string. Her mouth opened, but no words formed, only a shallow breath that trembled at the edges. And then Judy said the words that made the entire courtroom fall utterly silent. There is also footage. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is simply truth, and truth does not need volume to rearrange a room. Lila's head jerks up, eyes widening. What footage? There was no footage. The garage cameras were broken. Judy does not blink. The main exit camera was offline. The corner camera near the attendance booth was not. The bailiff steps forward, placing a small monitor on the bench. The click of the cord plugging in feels like a countdown. Lila's breathing becomes fast, uneven. That camera did not work. I tried. She stops. The entire gallery leans in. Judy's eyes sharpen, catching the slip like a glint of shattered glass. You tried what, Ms. Harrow? Lila freezes, realizing she has just revealed more than she meant. The monitor flickers to life. At first, the screen is dark, Murky shapes, fluorescent haze. Then the angle sharpens, revealing a grainy view of the booth. Marcy stands inside, tired but professional, hands folded. A car pulls up. Lila steps out. The room watches the younger woman on screen with collective, suspended disbelief. She does not look rushed. She does not look patient. She looks furious. The audio crackles. Her voice slices through the static. "Do you know who my father is?" Gasps scatter through the gallery. On-screen, Lila steps closer, waving the senator's ID aggressively, her silhouette domineering under the fluorescent lights. The lens catches her jaw tightening, her posture shifting, a predator scenting vulnerability. "You do not talk to me like that," the recording continues. "You work here. I own the people who run this place." Marcy's recorded voice is soft. "Ma'am, please step back." "No," on-screen Lila snaps. "You step back, or I will make sure someone replaces you by morning." The real Lila's face drains of color. She tries to speak, but only air escapes. Judge Judy pauses the footage at the moment Lila slams the ticket down, the same frame captured in the photos, now alive with motion and intent. The still image freezes mid-impact, the paper bending under force. Judy's voice is steady, almost quiet. "This is not a misunderstanding. This is intimidation." Lila's body sinks in her seat, all bravado stripped away. Her chest rises in short, panicked bursts. Her fingers curl inward, as if trying to hide from the version of herself now trapped on the screen. The courtroom is dead silent, the energy thick with disbelief and reckoning. Judy leans forward, eyes unblinking. "Ms. Harrow, we are no longer discussing impatience or frustration." Lila swallows, trembling. "Please, that is not who I am." Judy presses pause, letting the frozen image hang like a verdict. "Then explain," she says, "why the camera tells a different story." The last frame of the footage still clung to the courtroom walls. Lila frozen mid-threat, hand raised, eyes sharp with manufactured power. Now, in real time, those same eyes looked nothing alike. Fear had replaced fire, and fear, unlike arrogance, had nowhere to hide. Judge Judy let the silence expand, stretching long enough for everyone to feel its weight settle into their chests. She kept the monitor angled toward Lila, as if giving her a chance to face the version of herself she had tried so hard to control. "Ms. Harrow," Judy said gently, almost too gently, "is this footage inaccurate as well?" Lila's throat works, swallowing a lump of panic. I was upset. I felt threatened. She was rude to me." Marcy flinches but remains silent, eyes lowered. The courtroom watches Lila with an intensity usually saved for confessions. Judy folds her hands. "Show me the part where she raises her voice, where she insults you, where she threatens your job." Lila's breath catches. "It's not that simple." "Then explain it simply." The words land softly, but the impact is seismic. Lila opens her mouth, then closes it, jaw trembling. Her hands clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles whitening like snow gathering across stone. I did not want her to speak to me like that," she whispers. "Like what?" Lila hesitates. Admitting this means tearing down the last piece of her identity. "Like, I was ordinary." A few people in the gallery exhale sharply. It is not anger. It is recognition of the honesty she never meant to reveal. Marcy looks up, eyes glistening. She shakes her head slowly, voice barely above breath. "I never raised my voice. I never disrespected her. I was just doing my job." The contrast between them says everything. One shrinking from truth, one standing in it. Judy leans back, watching Lila carefully. "Your fear's real right now, Ms. Harrow. But it did not appear when you had power. It only appeared when the truth challenged your version of events." Lila's breath becomes unsteady, shallow, like each inhale must be negotiated with her pride. "You do not understand. If my father sees that footage, he will—" She stops herself, but too late. "He will what?" Judy asks softly. "Be disappointed? Angry? Or simply afraid that your behavior reflects his influence?" Lila's body curls inward, shoulders trembling. The transformation is undeniable, the collapse of a persona built from status instead of self. Marcy watches her, compassion threading through caution. She sees a girl stripped of armor, not a villain, a realization that complicates her pain rather than erasing it. Judy continues, voice steady. Fear is not an excuse, but it can be the beginning of truth. Lila lifts her eyes, wet and wide, whispering, I do not know how to fix this. You cannot fix what you refuse to face, Judy replies, so start here. The judge leans forward, lowering her tone to something almost intimate. Tell this courtroom what you were truly afraid of that night. And Lila's breath stops, because the real fear has nothing to do with the parking attendant. The question hung in the air like a trembling spotlight. What were you truly afraid of that night? Lila's breath faltered, not from anger, not from indignation, but from something deeper, older, and far more jagged. The courtroom waited. Even the cameras seemed to steady themselves, unsure how close they should be to someone unraveling. Lila's gaze drifted to the floor, her composure slipping grain by grain, her hands twisted together in her lap, fingers knotted so tightly they trembled. She opened her mouth once, twice, but silence poured out instead of sound. Judge Judy softened her voice. You're not under attack right now. You're being asked to tell the truth. Lila flinched at the word truth. It was as if the syllables struck a bruise she had been hiding for years. I was overwhelmed, she finally says, but her voice cracks. Everything felt like it was closing in on me. People expect things from me. They always have. Expect what? Judy asks, calm and steady. Lila struggles for breath, her chest tightening. Perfection, control, strength. My father. She stops, her throat closes around the word. The entire room leans in, the narrative thread pulling tighter. Go on, Judy encourages quietly. Lila wipes a tear that escapes before she can stop it. He has a way of measuring worth. Every mistake reflects on him. Every flaw is a failure. And when that attendant spoke to me like I was nobody, her voice breaks completely. A long, heavy silence follows. Marcy watches her, expression shifting. Not to forgiveness, not yet, but to understanding. She has seen this kind of pressure before. Different circumstances, same weight. Judy's tone sharpens just enough to re-anchor the room. Pressure does not justify cruelty, Ms. Harrow. It explains it, but it does not excuse it. Lila nods weakly, tears collecting along her lashes. Her entire posture folds inward, no longer the confident figure who strutted into the courtroom claiming nothing mattered. It felt like I had to fight back, she whispers. Like if I looked small, he would see it. He always sees it. Your father? Judy asks. Lila does not answer. She just shuts her eyes, a single tear slipping free, slow, reluctant. And so, Judy continues, you made Ms. Nolan small instead. Lila's face contorts, the guilt landing fully for the first time. Marcy lowers her eyes, holding the pain but also recognizing that this moment is different. This is not arrogance, this is collapse. I was wrong, Lila murmurs, voice hollow. I kept pushing because I could not afford to lose control, not in front of anyone, not ever. Her breathing trembles violently now, her carefully constructed image collapsing in real time. But, Judy says, leaning forward with moral precision, you lost control anyway the moment you chose ego over decency. Lila looks up, eyes red, defeated. I do not know how to be any different. Judy studies her for a long, piercing moment, then asks, who taught you that being human was something to hide? And Lila's reaction reveals that the answer is far more devastating than anyone expected. The moment Judge Judy asked, who taught you that being human was something to hide? Lila's entire body reacted, a flinch, a breath caught mid-rib, a tremor that started in her fingertips and traveled up her arms. It was as if the courtroom lights dimmed, leaving her exposed beneath a single beam of truth she could no longer outrun. The room stayed silent, not expectant, reverent. There are moments when a courtroom becomes a confessional, and this was one of them. Lila's eyes lowered, not in defiance now, but in surrender. Her voice, when it emerged, was thin but painfully real. My father, she whispers. 3 words, soft, simple, shattering. The audience shifts, the faintest rustle of empathy mixed with disbelief. Lila grips the edge of the table, knuckles bloodless, as if holding on to the only thing keeping her upright. He always said weakness makes people disposable, she continues, her lips trembling. that the world listens only when you demand, never when you ask. Marcy's breath catches. Her expression softens with something that resembles sorrow, not for what Lila did, but for the child she must have been. Judy stays still, her silence a steady anchor, not indulgent, not approving, simply present. Lila inhales shakily. Growing up, if I cried, he would say I embarrassed him. If I hesitated, he said I made him look incompetent. Every emotion was a flaw, every mistake a stain on his reputation. The camera closes in on her face, a mosaic of shame, fear, and sudden clarity. So I learned to be untouchable, she confesses, strong, loud, always right, because if I was not perfect, I was nothing. Judy finally speaks, her tone softer than the courtroom has heard all day. And that is why you lashed out at Ms. Nolan. Lila nods. When she did not treat me like someone important, I felt that old panic, that voice saying I failed, that I looked weak. So I pushed back, harder, crueler. She swallows, eyes glistening. Not because I hated her, but because I hated the part of myself that felt small. A ripple of understanding moves through the gallery, not forgiveness, but recognition of a wound deeper than entitlement. Marcy steps forward slightly, heart beating visibly beneath her blouse. She whispers, I never wanted to make you feel small. I just wanted to be treated with respect. Lila breaks, truly breaks. A sob escapes, sharp, raw, unpolished, the kind she has spent years burying under armor. Judy lets the moment breathe before she says, Ms. Harrow, strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It is the courage to acknowledge it. Lila covers her face, tears spilling through the cracks of her fingers. I do not know how. Judy's next words land like a turning key. Then today is the first moment you will learn. The courtroom holds its breath. Before Judy continues, a soft knock interrupts the silence. The bailiff steps forward holding a sealed letter from Lila's father himself, delivered moments ago, requesting to speak on her behalf. And Lila's entire world collapses all over again. The letter in the bailiff's hand sat like a storm cloud that had drifted into a room already drenched in thunder. But after the emotional downpour of Lila's confession, the courtroom did something unexpected. It fell into a quiet so profound it felt almost sacred. Judy held the unopened envelope between her fingers, its weight insignificant, its implications colossal. Lila stared at it the way a child stares at the dark, knowing what might wait inside, praying it will not be worse than imagined. Ms. Harrow, Judy said softly, this letter is from your father. A tremor passed through Lila's shoulders. She closed her eyes, bracing herself. Please, do not read it out loud. The plea was not arrogant, not sharp, not strategic. It was frightened. Judy considered her for a long moment, then nodded. I will respect that. For now. The envelope remained sealed, placed gently beside the case file. It was a promise deferred, not dismissed. Marcy watched the exchange with a quiet ache in her eyes. She had seen Lila's armor crack, crumble, and collapse, but she had never seen her look small in a way that felt human rather than cruel. The judge folded her hands. We have reached a point where punishment is no longer the focus. Understanding is. Lila blinked, confused. I do not understand. Good, Judy replied. That means you are listening. The camera drifted across the courtroom, spectators leaning back, breath slowing, the earlier tension softening at the edges. The harsh white light seemed to dim, just enough to cast gentler shadows. Judy continued, her voice lowered into a steadier register. Your behavior harmed Ms. Nolan, deeply. But what you revealed today, about your father, about the expectations, about the pressure, does not absolve you. It explains why your fuse is short. It does not justify the explosion. Lila nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Marcy stepped forward slightly, hands clasped in front of her. When she spoke, her voice was soft. I did not know any of that. I just thought you hated me. Lila shook her head. I hated myself in that moment, and I took it out on you. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry. The apology did not erase the damage, but it rearranged the air. Marcy exhaled, slow and cautious. Thank you. That means more than you think. Judy watched them with a restrained tenderness, the kind she rarely let anyone see. Acknowledging harm is the beginning, not the end. The room fell into a stillness that felt less like tension and more like aftermath, the fragile calm after a storm's final clap. Judy finally reached for the envelope again, tapping it lightly against the bench. Ms. Harrow, I will ask you this once more. Do you want me to read your father's letter? Lila's breath shuddered. She whispers, yes. And every gaze in the courtroom snaps to the sealed envelope, waiting for the storm it might yet unleash. When Judy broke the seal on the envelope, the sound was barely more than a whisper. Yet it sliced through the quiet courtroom like the reopening of an old wound. Lila's eyes fixed on the paper, her breath shallow, steady only in its fear. Judy unfolded the letter but did not read it aloud. She scanned its contents, her expression shifting, subtly but unmistakably. There was no shock, no outrage, only a quiet, stern recognition. She folded it again and laid it gently on the bench. Ms. Harrow, she said, your father's words do not defend you. They do not condemn you. They do something else. Lila stiffened. What did he say? Judy does not look at her with judgment, but with understanding. He wrote, handle it, nothing more. The words hit Lila harder than any condemnation could. Her face crumples, not from shame now, but from the unmistakable pain of abandonment disguised as expectation. The gallery senses the shift. Arrogance had long since fallen away. Now, even the illusion of support followed. Judy let the silence settle before speaking again. Your father has given you neither guidance nor protection, just pressure. Lila's voice fractures. He always does. Then today, Judy says, you will learn that consequences are not cruelty. They are responsibility. She turns slightly toward Marcy. Ms. Nolan, you have endured intimidation, public embarrassment, and the fear of losing your job because Ms. Harrow used her influence irresponsibly. Marcy nods, her hands clasped tightly together. Judy continues with unwavering clarity. Therefore, Ms. Harrow, you will pay restitution for Ms. Nolan's lost work hours, as well as the cost of the garage's internal review. In addition, you will write a formal apology, not a statement crafted by your father's staff, but one written entirely by you. Lila nods quickly, almost desperately. I will, I promise. This is not about promising, Judy says. This is about understanding. Lila's expression softens into something fragile, something she has never allowed to surface before. I do understand, she whispers. I hurt her, and I wanted to feel powerful. Marcy's eyes well, but her voice remains steady. You do not need power to be decent. The weight of that truth lands softly but deeply. Judy shifts slightly, taking in both women. We are not here to destroy Ms. Harrow. We are here to correct her direction. The distinction matters. The entire room feels it. This ruling, Judy concludes, is meant to teach, not punish, because cruelty teaches nothing. But accountability? That can change a life. Lila looks up slowly, the tears gathering at the corners of her eyes no longer hidden. Thank you for not giving up on me. Judy's gaze softens, only slightly. You must not give up on yourself. She turns toward Marcy. There is one more thing you both need to say to each other before we conclude. The room holds its breath, because the next words will decide whether healing is possible. The judge's words, there's one more thing you both need to say to each other, hung like a suspended gavel. Lila inhaled sharply, shoulders lifting with an anxiety that once disguised itself as confidence. Now, stripped bare, she had nothing left to hide behind but honesty. Judy turned to Marcy. Ms. Nolan, you may speak first. Marcy nodded, stepping forward with a deliberate calm. The lights caught a soft sheen in her eyes, not anger, not triumph, but something gentler, something earned. Mrs. Harrow, Marcy began, voice trembling just enough to reveal the rawness underneath. You made me feel small. You made me feel replaceable. I thought about quitting. I thought maybe I was not strong enough to do my job. Leila winced, guilt flickering across her face like a shutter catching harsh light. But, Marcy continued, I also saw you today. Not just the girl in the footage, not the one in the photos, the real you. She swallowed. And I realized you were drowning in pressure I did not know existed. Lila's lips part in silent surprise. This does not erase what you did, Marcy says softly, but I do not hate you. I just wanted you to see me the way I saw you, someone who mattered. The entire gallery seemed to exhale. Judy nodded, then looked to Lila. Your turn. Lila rose slowly, palms flat on the table to steady herself. Her voice had none of the polished confidence from earlier, only the trembling honesty of someone learning to speak without armor. Ms. Nolan, Lila begins, her gaze lifting with difficulty. I was cruel, not because of who you are, but because of who I was afraid I was. The admission lands softly, but its depth ripples through the room. My entire life, she continues, I have been told to be perfect, to never show weakness, to always be in control. And when you spoke to me like I was just another person, her voice breaks. It terrified me. So I tried to make you smaller, so I could feel bigger. Tears slip down her cheeks openly now. She does not wipe them away. You did not deserve that. You were kind, patient, you were doing your job, and I hurt you because I did not know how to handle my fear. Marcy's chest rises with a soft, emotional breath. Lila steps forward, not close enough to intimidate, but close enough to be sincere. I am sorry. Truly. Deeply. Not because I was caught, not because of this courtroom, because you deserved better from me as a person. The room falls silent. Even the cameras seem to pause. Marcy nods once, letting the apology settle. Thank you, she murmurs. I accept it. The acceptance is not dramatic. It is not sweeping. It is real, and that is why it matters. Judy watches them with a quiet, measured pride. She senses the shift, not forgiveness as a gift, but accountability as transformation. Judy lifts her gavel slowly, the wood catching a warm glow in the softened courtroom light. It is time, she says, for my final ruling. And the gavel's descent hovers in the air, poised between consequence and closure. The gavel hovered mid-air, suspended between everything Lila had been and everything she might still become. The courtroom waited, not for punishment, but for truth to settle into its final shape. And when Judge Judy finally lowered the gavel, she did not strike. She placed it gently on the bench, as if signaling not an ending, but a beginning. Judy folded her hands and looked from Lila to Marcy, then back again. Her gaze carried the weight of what had transpired, the lies, the footage, the confession, the apology, and the quiet courage it took for both women to stand in the same room and face each other without flinching. Ms. Harrow, Judy began, her tone deliberate, steady. What happened in this parking garage was not about a ticket. It was about power, misused, distorted, and feared. Lila lowered her head, breath trembling. But today, Judy continued, you confronted something far more daunting than a legal complaint. You confronted yourself. A tear slipped down Lila's cheek, not the collapse of earlier, but something calmer, more honest. Judy turned to Marcy. Ms. Nolan, your patience and dignity throughout this process speak louder than any argument made today. You were wronged, and the court recognizes the impact that had on your livelihood and your peace. Marcy nodded, eyes shining with a mixture of relief and something gentler, release. Judy straightened. Therefore, my ruling is as follows. Ms. Harrow will pay restitution for the documented damages, complete 30 hours of community service at a facility of this court's choosing, and submit a written apology to Ms. Nolan within 7 days. Lila nods quickly. Yes, Your Honor, I will do all of it. I am not finished, Judy said. Lila freezes. You will also enroll in a conflict resolution program, not because you must, but because you need to learn how to speak without harming, how to stand without threatening, and how to lead without fear. The words land softly, but they shape the air like a verdict far larger than the case itself. Lila breathes out, a slow, trembling release, as if something inside her finally loosened after years of being clenched too tightly. "Thank you," she whispers, "for giving me a chance to change." Judy nods once, her expression both stern and gentle. "Do not waste it." The judge then turns to Marcy. "Ms. Nolan, you showed extraordinary restraint and courage. I hope today brings you closure and restores the respect you are owed." Marcy smiles softly. "It does, Your Honor." The courtroom exhales. The tension that had been carved into its walls all morning dissolves into something lighter, something almost warm. Judy lifts the gavel one final time. "This case," she says, "is a reminder that arrogance collapses under truth, and character is built in what rises after."